For the ICRA 2020 online conference, we present SuPer. SuPer is a surgical perception framework for endoscopic tissue manipulation with surgical robotics. The surgical scene is deformable and moves unpredictably, as seen in the simple knot tying examples. Human operators overcome this by perceiving errors and make the necessary corrections. In essence, this is closing the loop. Similarly, we are bringing the perception necessary to surgical robotics, so controllers can effectively close the loop when manipulating tissue. The framework is based on tracking both the surgical tool and the tissue environment separately. They are then combined into a single uniform world frame. The proposed framework was implemented and deployed on a DaVinci research kit. To test the framework, a simple controller is used to repeatedly manipulate tissue, and performance of the tracking is evaluated. The first component of the proposed framework is tool tracking. The tool tracking component utilizes both a kinematic prior and encoder measurements by formulating the problem as a hand-die transform to correct. As shown on the right, a reprojected rendering of the surgical tool is not perfectly overlapped with the original image when not using our proposed tracking method. To track the pose error of the hand-die, it is parameterized by an orientation and translation. Painted markers and the edges of the insertion shaft are used to update these parameters. A distance metric is defined for the features and used to make the association between the detected image features and their 3D locations on the surgical tool. A particle filter is employed and uses these associated features to update the tracked pose. The observation models are defined using the distance metric. They are designed to be robust against misdetections which can be caused by occlusions. The video on the right shows the reprojected rendering with our tool tracking pose estimation. We can see that after our tool tracking processing, the virtual tool is perfectly overlapped with the original observed image. The second component of our framework is tracking of the deformable tissue environment. The deformable tissue environment is tracked with a 3D fusion method that uses circles to represent the reconstructed surface. A circle represents a surface region and its parameters include a position, surface normal, radius, and color. Circle is chosen to represent the environment due to its direct conversion to a point cloud, which is a standard data type in robotics. The bottom right image pair shows a direct conversion. The circle representation is a denser representation, but the overall structure and shape is still retained in the converted point cloud. A less dense graph of ED nodes are updated to track the motions of the circle. Each ED node is parameterized by a full pose and an additional translation vector. From the ED nodes, the circles can be reconstructed to give a full 3D surface. We propose a cost function to minimize the energy between our model and the observation from the image sensor. Updates to the ED nodes are done through minimization of this cost function. The first term of the cost function geometrically fits the circle model to the depth observations. From demonstrations below, our circle model is trying to align with the observation. However, observations contain a significant amount of noise due to sensor inaccuracy or stereo reconstruction error. Therefore, we add a second term to the cost function, which makes the model as rigid as possible to ensure consistent motion. This avoids overfitting from the previous term and can be done since the elementary points in the physical world are usually correlated to their neighbors. As shown in the visual below, our circle model can better deal with the noise from the depth observations after applying this cost term. Since we employ the quaternion to represent the ED node's rotation, a third term is added to ensure the 4D vectors of the rotation lie in the SO3 space in order to be a true rotation in a 3D coordinate system. The last term matches textures by finding the image feature correspondence between the rendered surface and the observed image. The left figure is the reconstructed rendering, and the right is an observed image. This is used to introduce visual color information into our energy function to make it more robust. The cost function is then minimized by the LM algorithm, which was implemented on a GPU with OpenCL. This is an example of our deformable tracker working very well on a previously released dataset for non-surgical scenes. With the proposed deformable tissue tracking method, not only can we reconstruct deforming surfaces, we're able to directly track locations on the surface of deforming objects. Stereo reconstruction is used to provide depth information for the deformable tracker. The surgical tool is masked from the depth image, so the deformable tracker is only given the environment information. Finally, we combine all information from the tool tracking and deformable tracking methods into a uniform world frame and utilize that information to control the robot. For the first experiment, the surgical tool is set to follow a trajectory in the camera frame. The trajectory is generated along an uneven surface, which is reconstructed by Deformable Tissue Tracker. The surgical tool is then regulated to follow this trajectory by using the surgical tool tracker. As seen here, the surgical tool precisely moves just above the surface as intended. Performance of both trackers were made by comparing the reprojection of their respective 3D information with manually annotated image frames. For the tool tracking, IOU is measured and it has a good balance between computational efficiency and performance. For deformable tissue tracking, point features on the deforming surface are annotated and reprojected pixel error is measured. It is compared against a point-based feature tracking method and performs significantly better. To test tissue manipulation capabilities, the surgical tool repeatedly grasps the same location on the tissue and deforms it. The tool tracking is used to regulate the position of the end effector, allowing it to reach the grasping point. Note that the deformable tissue tracker is able to reconstruct the deformed tissue that is not directly visible in the camera frame. The deformable tissue tracker keeps track of the same location on the tissue, even after the repeated deformations. In this experiment, the tool repeatedly grasps the same location on tissue, 5 out of 5 times. Our future work involves integrating this framework into advanced control policies for surgical task automation. The scene information provided by the framework will give the perception necessary to close the loop for these controllers. In conclusion, we believe our proposed framework is an important step to providing the perception necessary for future surgical automation efforts. Thanks for watching. For more details, please scan the QR code and visit our project website.